helps if I connect the microphone. Small details. So I wanted to continue our conversation today talking about our voice. And ironically, you guys could not hear my voice because the microphone was not on. Go figure. I couldn't have organized that and prepped that if I had tried. I love it. But how many times does it feel that way? How many times do we feel like we're using our voice, but it's not landing, right? Like we're talking, but the people listening are not receiving, or maybe not receiving in the way that we intended to. It's just like starting today's call with you guys and having the headset in, and I'm prepared and all the things, and yet I forgot that tiny little step of turning it on. There's my foster cat, December. Isn't she cute? So, I want to talk about how to have our voices actually land with whomever it is that we're speaking to. And this can be professional and personal, but we're going to talk today through the lens of leadership. When we have a team, we really want our team to feel the things that we're talking about and not just feel like, that character in Charlie Brown that's talking and nobody's listening. It's a common issue that I see with executives and leaders that I work with where something happens in between getting the promotion, getting the title of leader, and then us trying to keep it. And we stop sounding like ourselves. We stop feeling like real humans. And real humans have foster cats that interrupt their live videos, right? December is up for adoption, but you're gonna have to go through me to get her because she's a cutie patootie. Um, but we stop being humans. We don't allow for even organic things like that to happen because we're so worried about being perfect and being perceived the right way that we actually end up working against ourselves and we end up making it harder because we end up sounding like a robot and we lose that human, authentic voice as a leader. And you've probably even gotten trainings on how to sound like a leader, how to communicate. I teach this. This is something I work with organizations and individuals to do is to communicate as a leader. It's when we take that to excess of being too measured, too professional, and too careful that we're running our words through a filter and we end up saying too much. We end up over qualifying and we pad our conversations even sometimes with corporate language that sounds like a lot of big words, but it lands like nothing. It's not connecting with our audience. And the whole point of communication is to connect with our audience. They don't need to hear a robot, they need to see a human showing up authentically. In fact, we are at a point now where we are communicating more than ever, but connecting less in the workplace. We're saying more words, but people aren't hearing it. And it's in part because we're trying to sound right. We're trying to sound perfect. Aspect Communications this year, 2026, released a study that organizations that spoke more, their leaders talked more last year to their teams, producing more content, all of these things. And we have access now in ways that we didn't have before. They actually found that trust lowered. Trust in that leadership team was less. The more we communicated, with just volume and not rich, intentional, authentic conversation, lowered the trust level of the team and basically made us less credible, right? Less believable, less trustworthy in the organization. So, your authentic voice, our authentic voice, us showing up as humans imperfectly, can really be a strategic advantage when we're working with others. They aren't really looking at you to sound a certain way and sound like a leader per se, as much as they want you to be the leader, be the example, walk the walk. They're less concerned about talking the talk. So when you speak from your lived experience, whether that's imperfect and messy, that's what people are going to lean into, right? That's what people are going to pay attention to. In fact, I just saw something. It was this fun little, I love human behavior, right? My master's is in animal behavior, and I just love behavior in general. And there was this cool little experiment that they did where people were doing cold sales calls, right? Which I have done before at one stage of my life, and it is soul sucking, and I don't know how people do it. But cold sales calls. And they found when the person on the other line, on the other end, actually picked up, so when the phone call was picked up, the person doing the sales call would pretend to be making a mistake. They would say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just dropped my pen," or, whatever, whatever. And people stayed on the phone longer because it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't canned, it wasn't scripted. They felt like they were actually talking to a human, and they engaged longer. They leaned in longer. So I would encourage you to just say the things, be conscientious, plan ahead, but don't script it. Don't lose the human in you when you're working with anyone on your team or in your organization, right? I spent years as an executive, as a new and emerging leader, running my voice through every filter. Did it, was it going to sound well? What were the legal ramifications? Were all the words perfect? Were they going to understand what I was saying? They're important questions to ask, but not to the point that we filter it so much that that we lose us in the conversation. And I found when I stopped doing that, the whole culture on my team changed. When I just showed up as me, professional, but showed up as me, everything shifted. It shifted even the energy in the room, right? I found that my personality, my voice, my authenticity was actually the asset in the room more than all of the like perfect things that I had to say, right? So if you can do one thing in the next few days to help shift this behavior on your end, I would think about the thing that you often water down in conversation, the thing that you make softer. This is hard. This is not easy, I readily admit. But the thing that you usually cushion, right? And what's the honest observation that you can share? Now, again, be tactful, professional, and kind, but can you just say it? Can you add the human aspect to you? If you were to receive that feedback, how would you want to hear it? And say it that way. And you can practice with someone that is not as scary, to practice with. You can practice with a friend or, a coworker that you've had more experience with and you've already developed trust with. But the more that we do this, the easier it becomes just to have that direct, authentic communication. So say it respectfully, but say it directly. And just notice what happens, right? Take observation, allow your brain to accept that data point that when you are talking and when you're speaking with authority, but respectfully, people are going to trust it more. Pay attention to that and see what happens. I'm really curious. Feel free to email me or DM me on this if you practice it. I'd love to hear exactly what happens for you. My email is info@amycapello.com, or just shoot me a message here. I would love to hear it. So, when our authentic voice is honored, it's not unprofessional, but it is irreplaceable. It is uniquely you, and your team needs to hear it. Where we have a world full of noise and background chaos, your voice is going to be the thing that actually makes people listen. I love this. So, this is the work that I do. If you're interested in working together, please feel free to reach out to me. Tomorrow, I'm going to teach how to lead with presence, even when you feel like you're, running on empty, because there's a great balance between those two things. We all get exhausted. We are all humans. So, how can you continue to show up with that authentic presence in the room as well? Okay. So good to talk to you guys. I love this. Reach out to me. Let's keep the conversation going, and I will check in with you tomorrow.